You might have believed that the freedom of social media does not come with a price as you navigate through hundreds and thousands of posts and pages, opinionizing and constructing your own digital identity. Well, who doesn't want to be popular among their peers, both on and off the page? These platforms can connect old friends, spark new relationships, and provide a space for communities to share interests. However, as the digital web interweaves more tightly around our lives, it casts a dark shadow unexpectedly. Yes, your social media interactions come with a price, sometimes in the most unsettling ways, as happened to Joyce Wincy Ho, an ordinary 15-year-old girl who was brutally murdered at her home after a dispute with her friend on one of her posts on Facebook. This case is not just a tragic story of lost youth. It serves as a grim reminder of how online altercations can escalate into real-world violence. Joyce Ho, better known by her moniker Wincy, was born in Hong Kong on May 15, 1996, and brought up in the Netherlands after her parents had permanently moved there. She grew up in the Dutch state at an early age, adapting to their customs and language and executing them flawlessly. She was remarkable in maintaining an outgoing and socially acceptable personality and adept in executing her brilliance for getting good grades, playing the piano, and playing chess on national levels, presenting a prestigious chess club. Because of her common Chinese descent with Polly Kay, Wincy instantly bonded with her when she initially met Polly at the Lawrence Lyceum School in Arnhem, where they both studied. Wincy and Polly forged an inseparable friendship, marked by their care for one another because of their shared descent and their common belief in maintaining a strong Chinese community in the Netherlands. This strong friendship lasted for years, until the end of 2011, when both the girls were going through their critical years in their adolescence, during which a minor argument sparked a heated rivalry that rapidly evolved into something far more sinister. Initially, it seemed like typical teenage drama, a conflict between two girls vying for popularity and envious of each other's attention. However, in the ensuing weeks, the situation escalated far beyond expectations. The strain in their relationship extended slowly until it blew off, setting off a chain of reactions that would soon come as a regret to both of them. What triggered this chain of responses was a single impulsive Facebook post by Wincy in November 2011 that was a reaction to a slightly provocative post by Polly. Oh my god, how slutty can you get? While it may sound offensive to many of us, it was nothing but typical teenage trash talk, a jab at one another just to get some attention. Everyone thought that this was normal for both the girls who were going through a rebellious phase of their life, exploring the highs and lows of their relationship, and it would be soon enough before they got back together. However, things took a downturn quickly when Polly got enraged by her best friend's thoughtless comment and chose not to respond directly to Wincy, but instead sought support from assertive friends while simmering in silence. One person advised Wincy that she needed to be careful with her words. Wincy, you need to be careful with your words and learn from this, or else you know what might happen. While another told her of the consequences she would face if she didn't keep quiet. Wincy better keep quiet or face serious consequences. Friends of both Wincy and Polly brushed off these remarks as empty threats, some even finding amusement in what they assumed to be typical teenage drama. The tensions, however, escalated further in December when Wincy decided to show up uninvited at a mutual friend's birthday party held at the House of Billiards, a central Arnhem pool hall. No one had been more upset than Polly, who was already there. Consequently, Wincy's arrival immediately created tension and a physical confrontation between Polly and Wincy. Polly criticized Wincy for showing up where she wasn't invited and brought up the Facebook comments, particularly the insinuation Wincy had claimed back in November. It's unclear whether Wincy's Facebook post was intended seriously or as a casual remark. Nevertheless, Polly was distraught by it, and the tempers flared, leading to a heated argument between them at the party. The confrontation escalated, with Polly and Wincy shoving each other and Polly reportedly shouting, "I'm going to kill you," repeatedly. The party attendees intervened to separate them and calm the situation. Ultimately, Polly demanded that Wincy leave her life and expressed a desire to never see her again. Wincy left the House of Billiards in tears, feeling unsupported by her other friends and believing Polly had turned them against her. Following the incident at the House of Billiards, Polly started sending threatening messages to Wincy daily, and both engaged in public disputes on Facebook. Polly's messages often crossed a line, implying threats of harm towards Wincy and her family. While many dismissed Polly's threats, Wincy took them seriously because in these frequent texts filled with hate, Polly's intentions were crystal clear that she had threatened to kill Wincy. As tensions rose, Wincy confided in friends about genuine concerns for her safety due to Polly's obsessive behavior. Despite Wincy's fears, her friends reassured her that Polly's threats were empty words from a hot-tempered person, a temper that would die out soon. However, Polly had no intention of reconciling with Wincy, as she felt an overwhelming urge to seek physical revenge on her former friend. Following her desire, Polly discussed her plan with her boyfriend Wesley C., a 17-year-old from Rotterdam whom she had been dating since October 8th of that year. Wesley, who had been obsessed with Polly, was manipulated by her into participating in this plan against his will. A few people claimed that Wesley had orchestrated the plan and pressured Polly to comply, misinterpreting Polly's threats against Wincy. Whatever the case might have been, Wesley's obsession came in handy for Polly, who wanted to harm Wincy, and that led the couple to take a drastic course of action. One thing that was notable regarding Wesley was his tendency to often boast about his connections to the Chinese mafia, claiming his family could carry out assassinations on his command. Still, these claims appeared to be teenage bravado rather than reality. Why so? Because out of a bunch of hitmen he could have hired with said connections with the mafia, Wesley decided to hire Jinhua K, a needy pushover who just wanted to blend within a popular social circle. Jinhua K was a 14-year-old son of Chinese immigrants residing in Kapelle aan den IJssel, near Rotterdam. Insecure and eager to fit in, he often went to great lengths to please his peers, like offering his pocket money to others just to spend time with him. As he matured, Jinhua attempted to adopt a tougher and more masculine persona, often showcasing acts of bravado to impress others. He became acquainted with Wesley through a group of Chinese boys in Rotterdam who frequented clubs together on weekends. Despite his efforts, Jinhua was viewed as an outsider within the group, an unwanted person whose presence was tolerated rather than embraced. Jinhua was determined to earn the group's approval by any means necessary, and he decided to help out Wesley in his diabolical plan so that he could acknowledge him. Considering Jinhua's resolve to do anything, Wesley decided to hire him, with negotiations starting at around 1,000 euros, initially for the contract killing, which seemed like a substantial sum for teenagers to gather quickly. So, Polly suggested paying Jinhua in installments of 20 euros per month for life, but this idea was dismissed as impractical. The amount eventually dropped significantly to 150 euros, along with the promise of free drinks and a night out in town later, which might not be worth a second for the usual hitmen. Still, it was more than enough for Jinhua. After hiring Jinhua, they provided him with Wincy's home address, a detailed premises description, what time Wincy was home, and the bus route from the train station to her house. For over a month, Polly devised her revenge against Wincy, with Wesley keeping Jinhua informed of the plan details, who had patiently waited for instructions from Wesley on when to proceed. During winter break, Polly and Wesley started to hesitate about the plan, and Wesley even decided to abstain by calling off the killing. However, they changed their minds shortly after and reinstated the plan. During the subsequent weeks, Polly and Wesley continued harassing Wincy on social media while Jinhua prepared for the act. Jinhua visited Wincy's neighborhood in Arnhem multiple times to familiarize himself with the location, and then he finally received the green light from Polly and Wesley to proceed with the plan. On January 12th, Jinhua traveled from Kapelle aan den IJssel to Wincy's family home in Arnhem with the intent to kill upon her arrival. However, to his surprise, Wincy was not home, and the house was empty. Jinhua waited outside for a while before eventually returning home unsuccessful. When Jinhua informed Polly and Wesley about the failed attempt, they were furious, and they insisted that he must return to Wincy's house within 2 days and carry out the murder without bail or face serious consequences. Wesley even threatened Jinhua with retaliation from the Chinese mafia if Wincy was not dead by January 14th. It's uncertain whether Jinhua truly believed Wesley's exaggerated threats, but he assured them he would not fail again. On Friday, January 13th, Jinhua stayed at a friend's house in Venlo, about 60 miles south of Arnhem, for the night. From there, he contacted Wesley via Skype, who told him about the time Wincy would be home. "You have the address, and you know where you need to go. She has piano lessons at 2 p.m., so you should be there by 3. However, Jinhua also considered the possibility of Wincy's parents being there or even attending the door, and shared his concerns with Wesley, asking him about the ways to deal with Wincy's family. "Should I get them too if they're home?" Wesley approved of Jinhua's idea, apparently giving him the green light. On the next day, Jinhua decided to proceed with his plan, leaving his friend's house and marching towards Wincy's. While he was out there carrying out his plan, Jinhua's friend, whom he had spent the night with, decided to post his plan on Facebook for the public, a flag that should have been taken seriously at that point. "Today, a girl will die at 3 p.m. However, this was taken as a joke, which proved to be fatal within the next few hours. Jinhua, on the other hand, arrived at the location and rang the doorbell. He was taken aback when Wincy's father, Chun Nam Ho, opened the door. Despite the surprise, Jinhua remained composed and politely asked to speak with Wincy, after which Hua invited him inside and called for Wincy. As her father entered the kitchen, Jinhwa and Wincy were left alone in the hallway, and Wincy closed the kitchen door for privacy. Considering this as the perfect opportunity, Jinhwa said, "I'm sorry. I have to do this," then proceeded to repeatedly stab Wincy in the neck and face with a knife. The attack was sudden and brutal, catching Wincy off guard, and she could not defend herself in time. Hearing the struggle, Wincy's father rushed back and saw her daughter lying in her blood, struggling to breathe. He confronted Jinhwa while Wincy staggered and collapsed, bleeding heavily. Chun Nam-ho fought fiercely to disarm Jinhwa and prevent his escape. Wincy's younger brother, Winkit, witnessed the altercation and quickly called the police after seeing his father injured. However, Jinhwa managed to break free from Hwa's grasp and fled the scene. A concerned neighbor, alerted by the sound of a struggle, arrived at the horrific scene, only to find Chun Nam-ho injured and disoriented on the floor, with a severe gash under his right eye, while Wincy lay bleeding heavily on the stairs. Ho urgently asked the neighbor to help Wincy, as she had not made a sound since collapsing and appeared to be in critical condition. Paramedics quickly arrived, transporting Wincy and her father to the hospital while police searched for Jinhwa in the area. News of the stabbing spread rapidly across the Netherlands as reporters descended on Stadhuderstraat. 2 hours after the attack, the police successfully located Jinhwa hiding in bushes nearby and apprehended him. Meanwhile, Chun Nam-ho received medical treatment for his injuries and was discharged, though he had to wait 2 days before visiting his daughter in the ICU. Wincy remained unconscious and in critical condition, with doctors working tirelessly to save her life. The situation was dire, and Wincy's survival was uncertain. And unfortunately, Wincy left this cruel world 5 days later, on January 19, 2012. As the case of Wincy's murder gained immense concern from the general public and social media, the police were burdened with a huge pressure to round up everyone involved in the event as soon as possible. While Jinhwa had decided to keep his lips sealed during the interrogation, revealing no leads whatsoever, he broke under pressure as well, just 3 days after the murder, showing that he had been backed by Wesley C. Consequently, the police raided Wesley's home in Rotterdam, arresting him for the charges of attempted murder. However, Wesley refused to recognize Jinhwa while refusing to cooperate with the investigators. Wesley, who thought of it as nothing, found himself in a tight spot when the news of Wincy's death broke out on January 19, 2012, amassing public sympathy and concerns nationwide. Despite finding himself in a sticky situation, Wesley remained loyal to Polly, keeping his lips tightly sealed for her sake. However, the investigators soon found their way to Polly's doorstep, just 5 days after Wincy's death, as they went through all the digital records containing threatening messages and heated exchanges between both parties. When Chun Nam-ho first learned of Polly's arrest in connection with his daughter's death, he was incredulous and insisted there must be a mistake because Wincy and Polly had been best friends. This statement surprised investigators who had gathered evidence suggesting intense animosity between the girls for over a month. Phone records and social media interactions painted a picture of ongoing hostility. The revelation that they were once best friends before this bitter conflict left investigators questioning the nature of their relationship. Chun Nam-ho admitted that Polly and Wincy had recently fallen out and had been in conflict since then. Initially dismissing it as teenage drama, he now realized his mistake upon his daughter's tragic death. Witnessing the severity of matters and assuming that either one of the boys had thrown her under the bus, Polly decided to come clean in a shade that would suit her best. She concocted a whole story confessing to the crime, yet dumping most of it on Wesley and Jinhwa, saving herself from the most of it. Polly claimed that her threats towards Wincy had been nothing but empty threats, a gesture of temporary hot-headedness until Wesley suggested to imply them. Polly claimed it had only been hypothetical until they mentioned these hypothetical plans to Jinhwa, who took things very far and decided to act independently. She revealed that she and Wesley had tried to stop Jinhwa from aborting the plan, but Jinhwa went too far himself. Wesley, on the other hand, decided to avoid blame as much as possible himself, claiming that the revenge plan originated from Polly, who harbored serious hatred against Wincy. Wesley claimed that he had only acted as a middleman to help his girlfriend, and he had no share in this, aside from arranging a meeting between Jinhwa and Polly. While both Wesley and Polly were keen on coming out with a clean slate, they concocted their version of stories with different aspects except for one. Both of them had dumped most of the load on Jinhwa. Consequently, Jinhwa faced his court hearing at Retbank in Arnhem on August 20, 2012, where he was charged with the premeditated murder of Wincy Ho and the attempted manslaughter of Chun Nam-ho. At the time of the trial, Jinhwa had just turned 15. Because of his age, he would not be tried as an adult, significantly limiting the potential duration of imprisonment if he was convicted of the charges. Jinhwa's lawyer, S.W. Hook Neuenberg, while not asserting complete innocence for her client, advocated for Jinhwa's acquittal on both charges, arguing that Jinhwa had been coerced into committing the murder by Wesley and Polly, who threatened him and his family with serious harm if he refused. Hook Neuenberg portrayed Jinhua as a psychologically vulnerable young man driven by a strong desire for approval and belonging, suggesting he lacked a full understanding of the consequences of his actions. She also suggested that Jinhua might have experienced a stress-induced blackout during the attack, impacting his control over his actions. In contrast, prosecutor Yosan Schramm argued that Jinhua was fully aware of his actions throughout the planning and execution of the murder. Schramm highlighted Jinhua's active participation in online conversations discussing the murder plan with Wesley and Polly as evidence of his direct involvement. Schramm emphasized Jinhua's deliberate actions during the attack, targeting vital areas like Wincy's throat and temples and attempting to harm Chun Nam-ho's wrist. The prosecutor dismissed claims of significant mental issues, describing Jinhua as a typical teenager with above-average intelligence. Ultimately, on September 3, 2012, judges Vierweser, Van Belzen, and Snyders delivered a guilty verdict against Jinhua, setting a foreboding precedent for the remaining defendants. Meanwhile, the other two went through a trial in private, as Polly faced charges of conspiracy to commit homicide since Dutch law does not allow for accessory to murder charges. She was represented by Abraham Martin Moskowitz, a prominent defense attorney known for representing high-profile clients. During the trial, Polly maintained that she never intended for Wincy's murder, attributing the attack to Wesley and Jinhua's misguided belief that it would please her. Polly's mother testified about her concerns regarding Wesley's character, suspecting him of having ties to organized crime. She also revealed that she knew about Polly's threatening messages to Wincy, but took no action. On the other hand, Wesley, who came to know about Polly's claim against him, portrayed Polly as the mastermind behind the plan from the start, claiming he had initially reacted with disbelief and concern when she proposed killing Wincy. Wesley alleged that Polly coerced him into assisting by threatening self-harm, citing an incident where she ingested a large number of diet pills to prove her seriousness. He also described a scenario where Polly threatened suicide with a razor when he attempted to break up with her, leading him to stay with her out of fear for her safety. He also admitted that he had attempted to delay or prevent the murder, but never contacted authorities to intervene. He also revealed that in the weeks leading up to the crime, he had provided Jinhua with fireworks to drop them through the mail slot of the Ho house, hoping this act would serve as revenge against Wincy, satisfying Polly and deterring further violence. However, Jinhua's parents found the fireworks in his room before he could carry out the plan, and they were confiscated. During Wesley's final trial, Wincy's mother appeared before the court wearing a white t-shirt adorned with Wincy's smiling face, a shirt she consistently wore to each of the 3 trials at the Recht Bank in Arnhem. She cleared her throat and spoke softly in Cantonese, with an interpreter translating her words. Addressing Wesley's parents, she posed a series of questions. How could their son commit such an act? What had led Wesley down this path? How had they raised him? Despite their silence, their trembling lips and watering eyes betrayed their emotions. Your children are your most precious possession, Wincy's mother explained as she turned to face the rest of the courtroom. I will forever blame myself for leaving the house so early that day. Because of that, I will never again hear my daughter say, Mom, I love you. I can't bear the thought that my little girl has left this world covered in stab wounds. She then turned her prayers towards the roof, addressing Wincy's ghost. Wincy, Mom misses you every day. Mommy misses you so much, every single day. As she addressed her daughter, the whole courtroom broke down in tears. Yet, who could have understood the pain of a mother losing her beloved daughter? I am in the deepest depths of despair. I constantly ask myself, why? Why? Unexpectedly, Wesley interrupted her, his voice shaking and his eyes filling with tears. I am right there with you, he said, then broke down and wept.